Hello, 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 beautiful people of the internet. My name is Whelsko. Are you somebody who struggles with the creative part of their brain, or are you somebody that has absolutely no ideas on how to generate new ideas? Well, then I have the perfect solution for you, because in this class we're gonna take you through exactly how our creative mind works, how ideas are formed, and how we can use our mind, our own little brain, to generate an infinite amount of ideas. By the time you're done, if you apply every single thing, you will be amazed absolutely about the amount of ideas that are coming in. And it only gets better, because once you get used to techniques and the principles that I'm about to teach you here, everything else goes straightforward. You keep going, and up and until hopefully where you can get to a place where I am, and that is I have more ideas than I know what to do with. I have way too much cool things that I keep coming up with that I can't physically do in a day. I cannot do that, and it's my opinion that it's better to have too much ideas than it is to have too little. And we are going to go over exactly that in this class, how you can get to that point. This is going to be a very long one, and this is also the first time that I really actually do one of these, especially this long. It's not going to be the best, so I hope you power through with me here, and my apologies for any inconsistencies, because knowing myself, I might here and there forget one or two things. That being said, if you only want to look for a certain part, or you want to do this video in parts, look at the time bar, or I don't know exactly what it's called, but there will be little chapters where you can find exactly where everything happened. I also will leave in the description further reading, sources, what else do we have? Books, if you want to go dive deeper on this topic. Most of it is covered in this. 80% of what you ever need to know is definitely covered here. There are some more advanced things that unfortunately we didn't have time for, because it was already so long. But that being said, if you have any questions, comments, you name it, I will be there in the not in the description below, but in the comments below. So do not hesitate to ask if you need some more information on something. And with that, let's get started. Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. My name is Whelsko, and I will be teaching you exactly how to unlock your unlimited creativity today. And what do we mean with that is simple, that having ideas is probably the easiest thing in the world, because we use our biological capabilities, the way we are born, the way our brain works, in order for us to create unlimited ideas. A lot of people often struggle with having the right ideas on how to do something or how to proceed. And while idea generation can take a little bit of time, the capacity of generating ideas is, I would say, in almost every single human, unlimited. We humans have unlimited creativity. That doesn't mean it's necessarily easier, because we have too much of it basically, but I will teach you how to use that unlimited creativity so that you also have an unlimited amount of ideas. One of my biggest problems is that I have way too many ideas that I want to do, that I want to execute on, that I want to achieve. There's just not enough hours in a day for me to do them, and I want to teach you that too, because it's often better to have a list of ideas that you have to select from than it is to, I don't know, have no idea of what to do at all. So that's what I'm going to teach you today, how exactly we're going to do that. And in order to understand that, we first have to go and look at the dictionary definition, so we at least know that we are on the same page and talking about the same idea. The idea, according to Google Dictionary, which comes from the Oxford Language Dictionary, a thought or suggestion as to a possible course of action. Very interesting one. So this means like we have an idea. What are we gonna do to go out for dinner? What's the idea? We could go Italian, we could go Greek, we could go Arab, we could go Chinese, we could go I don't know what. That's just a thought or suggestion as to a possible course of action. A mental impression. If I can take a look at the mess you created, I can have an idea on how to fix it. That's a mental impression. Now we have an opinion or belief. I think that was absolutely a great thing of you to do. That's the third one. And then the second definition, so now we are basically at 3 in 1, and then the second one is the aim or purpose. The idea of solving climate change is so that we humans can have a proper future. And that's how the internet, Oxford, defines an idea, and I'm gonna keep it very simple. An idea is two thoughts combined. Two things together makes not things, thoughts. Makes an idea. And this might seem a little bit weird, and this is more of a practical solution, but keep in mind, this is in your mind, not in the real world. In your mind, one idea plus another idea, or one thought plus another thought, equals an idea. 1 + 1 is 3. I know it doesn't seem very logical, but simply put, the sum is greater than the whole of its parts. The sum is greater than the parts when it comes to creativity, at least. And that's the definition that we are going to work with, and that will make a lot more sense when we are continuing with this class. It's going to take quite a while, but this is what we're going to be focusing on today. And I'll tell you this now. The secret to having the most immense ideas, the most crazy ideas to come to fruition, that simply means doing these, so this, do that like, I don't know, 100,000, you know what, do it 1,000,000 times. And then you have like one big idea that is, I don't know, let's say what's the most ambitious, what's something very, very ambitious nowadays? We'll call it the space race. So basically that means who is going to be the first on the moon again, who is going to be the first to colonize Mars. And in order to get there, you need 1,000 ideas on how to get the food there, how to do oxygen, how to make rockets, like all these little things. And so if you we're gonna focus on the basics. We're not gonna talk about how you can create your own space empire already. We're gonna do the simple things, and then you just keep adding on top of those later if you need to go deeper and deeper. And so for who benefits the most from this is, of course, people who are in a creative position. So that means writers, painters, film, movie makers, video game makers. The last one especially. Now, there are a few traditional jobs that we wanna, I wouldn't say avoid, but the flexible leeway that you have is a lot less. So this typically means like doctors, lawyers, etc. I would even argue lawyers that have to defend somebody, they have to work with a limited amount of resources. So that's, for example, it can be a very creative process. But once you think about it as a 1 + 1 = 3, as one idea and another idea, combine those and you have a big idea. That's the real moment that we are gonna work. That's the real moment you're looking for. That's your Eureka moment, I guess you could say. And the Eureka moment is, of course, from the Greek philosopher, I think it was, or mathematician of Archimedes. And Archimedes was a funky little dude living in the ancient Greece. And where those guys often would discussing philosophy and math and etc. etc. And some of the concepts that they developed actually came really close to what we would consider to today. I know in school we learned about one Greek philosopher who thought the world was made of super tiny particles. Now, of course, we know them as atoms. He didn't really have the capability to do that. But just him having that idea, that thinking of the possibility and trying to reason with it is quite impressive. And then, of course, after the Greek and the Romans, we had a little bit less of a, I would say, inspirational period in time where thinking was really locked down. So, but I digress. We're going off track. And the Eureka moment is simply where the Archimedes was tasked by the king of ancient Greece to discover, is the crown fake? Because the king had no crown and he wanted to know if it was made out of real gold. Because in those times, in order to fake it, you couldn't make it from plastic. You had to make it from, like, I don't know, bronze or some lesser metal. And of course, it took a while. He was discovering all kinds of things, and all of a sudden, he had a bat. And then in a bat, it was like sitting there, and he noticed that the water was higher. So the height of the water was higher when he was in the bathtub than he was out of the bathtub. And that was an interesting thing for him. And so that is something completely logical to us today. But what he discovered was that if there is something in the water will displace itself to make room, basically. And that was his big moment, because he, in his mind, he put that concept of the water rising and falling, I guess. I don't know the exact physics, but that moment, plus the crown, the weight of the crown, so if it was real gold, it would displace less or more. I have no clue. But it's either one, probably more, because it weighs more, I guess. So that was his great idea. In Archimedes' case, we had the idea of a water volume displacement is the official name, I think. I think officially it's called a fluid displacement. Fluid displacement. But you get the idea. Basically, if you put something in a fluid, you will see that it expands, basically. So we had that plus the crown of the king, and that equaled to knowing if it was fake or not, to proving. The legends go, of course, that Archimedes was so hyped about it that he was shouting Eureka all over the place. And the legends go even further, that when he was in the bed and it was like, this is amazing. So he jumped out and he started running towards the king completely naked, shouting Eureka. Now, I don't know if this is a 100% historical fact, probably not. But that's the idea of how he proved to the king, and that's the Eureka moment, which is very popularized as being one of these stereotypes. When you have an idea, when you have a great idea, you shout Eureka, and maybe if you shout it every time you have a great idea, you are conditioned to have more great ideas in the future. I don't know, haven't tested it out. You can try it out if you want. But that's the whole idea, and that's the same as with the light bulb, because something all of a sudden inside of your brain got pressed on. And as you can see, drawing is very not my style. So the idea behind an idea is simply that we form new connections based on our existing thoughts. That's the idea. Now that we know this, now the next question becomes, of course, what do we do with our ideas? Well, the most important thing with any idea is you need to capture them. Ideas are like the mayfly in our real world, and a mayfly it hatches for a year, so it lays eggs, and it goes for the eggs need to hatch 1 year, and when they hatch, the mayfly lives for 24 hours, only 24 hours, and then it needs to lay eggs again, and then it dies. And ideas work a little bit the same way. If we do not feed them or capture them, then we basically don't see them anymore after 24 hours, and then we have to wait until the next batch of eggs hatches so that we can capture it. And just like a mayfly or just like a moth, for example, if with a moth, you might not always know they're there already, especially when you're sitting at night around the campfire. It's all, friends, family around. The stereotypical of hanging marshmallows above it. That was hard to say. All of that, and then we have sometimes you just are looking at the campfire, just thinking, and all of a sudden you see a moth flying. Just see a moth flying by, and what does the moth do? It just goes straight to the fire. And the idea is, when you would see such a moth fly, you take a jar, or you take something, and you capture it before it hits the flame. And that's what you need to do with your ideas. If your ideas hit the flame, they're gone. Now, does that mean that as soon as you have an idea, you need to do it in less than 30 seconds? No. But you have to keep in mind, in an age where our short-term memory just keeps being bombarded by all kinds of stuff, and our mind and body being conditioned to scroll and have very short attention spans, that can be a danger, because if you have, for example, an idea and the first thing you do is start scrolling around on TikTok, I mean, you're gonna lose your idea almost every time. And that's basically the important thing that I want to mention here, that our short-term memory is like 7. So our short-term memory is 7. It's like a very famous psychology article. 7 minus like this. Like one of the most famous psychology papers in the world, and it simply says that basically our short-term memory cannot hold more than 10 items. I'm simplifying it here because it's way more practical. So basically, if you have an idea, you sit at 10, 1 of 10. And if you have then 9 more things you have to process in your short-term memory, you might lose the idea. Now, the big question is, how do we prevent that? How do we prevent our ideas to go gone? Well, capture it. But Whelsko, come on, man, how do we do that? We write it down. Or we capture it, or we make like a voice clip saying, hey, I have this great idea about new business that will revolutionize the Web 3.0 because all the big talk is about that. So yeah, it's about NFTs and stuff. Oh, very cool, right? That's one of the, like a voice clip, a video clip, it doesn't matter. We write down a brief explanation, I guess. The name of it. And this is the most important thing, in my opinion, the source. Where and how did we get the idea? If we forget our idea, if we can trace back the steps to where we originally had the idea, that's exactly where we're gonna find it. If we forget it, and hopefully it comes back to us. Doesn't always happen, but the biggest chance is if you just repeat your steps or just see the exact same thing that you were seeing when you made the connection, that's exactly when you will remember what you have for an idea, and then you can capture it better. Does the brief explanation have to be? No, if you know exactly what it's about, then it's okay. But like, you have to keep in mind, if you write down an idea, if you capture it, and a year later you look back on the idea and you're like, damn, this is useful. Like, you gotta keep in mind, that thing is a year old now. And the only thing you had was a thought. So if you just named it, you might be losing a little bit of your idea. Like, you might have lost the idea because you don't know exactly what it is anymore. And you check the source. So that's why a brief explanation can help. And how do we do exactly that? How do we capture it best? Well, you organize them. Organize your notes / ideas. There's a great book on how to take very good notes, and that is called Smart Notes. So I highly recommend that if you need more advice on that. So, what is best, digital or paper? Digital versus paper write down. I do both. I think, for example, this thing. It's some ideas I had for a video that I just released, and I just all of it wrote down on the paper because the only real context that I needed it was the video, and as soon as the video was over, I don't really need to remember the idea. I like to keep my brain a little bit organized, and as far as that's possible. So I will give you the benefits. The biggest benefits of digital captures are very simple. Search functionality, man. If you have a whole, like, if you have 100,000 ideas and you have them all sorted out neatly and organized inside of your own brain, basically, I mean, then you're the smartest human being in the world. But why would you remember something if you can just look it up? That's what Einstein said, by the way, and he was very creative because he said that the intelligence is dependent on your creativity or wisdom. I don't know, one of the two. But the digital capture is search functionality, but the paper capture or capturing on paper is better for remembering, because people always debate like, but taking notes actually doesn't make you smarter, and that's exactly, like, they don't help you study, they help you remember what you have to study. That's why note taking is quote unquote important, and there's all kinds of arguments, but the biggest thing is it's way more personal if you write it down than if you type it down. That's basically it. So more personal. So yeah. In other words, so which one of these two do we pick then? Which one of these two do we pick? Well, if I were you, pick them both. Write down something, and after that, put it into your database, into your capture program. That's the best way to do it. So do both. I mean, I know it sounds a little bit dumb, but if you write down your ideas twice, that's quite effective. Now, another thing is, don't write your ideas down. But Whelsko, you just spent 10 minutes explaining it. Yes, exactly. Good remark. If you can either draw it, either act. My apologies. Either act it out, either make a video out of it, either, I don't know, make it so it's sensory more pleasing. What the hell does that mean? Okay. Well, that is an extreme vague statement that simply says use your sensual data. Another vague statement. We have senses. So that's visual, auditory, kinesthetic. That one's written wrong. Olfactory and gustatory. I always mess them up. But simply this means eye, ear, touch, smell, taste. And simply put, now it's very hard to capture the taste of something on your smartphone. But it is very easy, or it's even better, to take a picture of something that is inspiration to you, or that gives you an idea, than it is to write down, oh, I was at the church today and the engraving, the art on the windows of the church gave me a great idea for my fantasy novel. Just take a picture of that and then say inspiration fantasy novel or something along those lines. And because the old saying goes, a picture tells 1,000 words. If you need to sing, or if you have an idea for music, or you have something else, just, record it. Sound effects. Act it out. Make a video of you acting something you want to do for the movie. Draw exactly what you need. Now, I can't draw, and so that's a little bit of an issue, I guess you could say. So let's say now I have an idea for a great epic battle in a video game with swords and shields, but the problem is I can't draw for shit. So how does this look like? Well, it looks something along these lines, and I don't think a lot of you are very inspired by this drawing. This is not good. This is very, very, very much not good, but it might just convey enough of the idea. And if I then put in so we just put the epic fight between two brothers in the church, which I visited early because, to take a picture from. So the epic fight between two brothers in the church in the name of justice. That kind of sounds very cheesy. So yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. So I don't have to draw the church. I don't have to. What I could do, for example, is that picture that we took earlier of the church, and then we, we can even do this in the church, especially now with smartphones, is basically draw this stupid thing on top of it, and then I can use that to write my fantasy novel. And now I already have one bigger idea. A 1 + 1 is 3, and that's two brothers fighting and a fantasy church. And that makes a novel, or part of a novel already. And do this 100 times over, and then write it all down, and then we're all good to go, remember? So that's basically how you capture the ideas best. And now, what programs can you use for them? Well, I use Notion for almost everything. I'm very much a fanboy of this program. It's unfortunately it doesn't really have an offline mode, and that's my biggest gripe with it. And the fact that the hotkeys are assigned absolutely by an idiot, because I'm not going into that, because it's but it's always online, and that's a big drawback for a lot of people. So another program I recently really got into trying out was Obsidian. And Obsidian has this cool functionality whereby you basically can create like a network of how it would look inside your brain, because inside your brain every single little detail is a simple neuron, and these neurons are connected by each other, and if they light up together, that's when the brain lights up, and that's when you get an idea. So Obsidian is very good, and it has a offline functionality. But again, the biggest thing we got to do with these notes taking is something you feel comfortable in the end, because the best note, like, you need to be able to work with this all day, basically. Not all day, but like every single day you have to come to it, you have to type something in. It's not always easy. It's not always easy. And so the most important thing is search, search, search. Being able to search and being able to organize your ideas in one way or another. So what does organization mean? Like, well, we got this, you know, and we just divide it, and here we go for cooking, here we go for painting, and here we go for the office. I don't know. And then every single idea you have, you just put in there, put in there, and put in there. And make it something that you obviously make your category something that you, what do you often keep busy with? That's what you need to make categories of. And that's exactly what I do with mine, or at least try to do, because I needed a completely new system, because I'm very tired of my old system. And that's one of the reasons that I'm making this. A good organization will make it so much sweeter for your future self. You have to treat yourself nice, but you have to treat your future self more nicely. So that basically covers how to capture it and make these buckets, man. I'm telling you, like, be able to organize it, and so that you can always do something quickly and organize it quickly. That's the most important thing. And the search, boom. Sometimes people, because like, I'll be honest, like, probably none of you actually use file cabinets other than for legal documents. I'm assuming. I might be ignorant, but I mean, and that the Smart Notes book, by the way, also goes over a process of how it was done by hand. All right. So next up, we have the mindset and the thinking process in order to generate your ideas, and that's what we're gonna go over next. Basically, the mind is a very interesting place to be, because based on the emotion that you have, you will gather more or less information. If you're fearful, you're gonna be more dialed in onto what's in front of you, then look at the big picture stuff. When you're more relaxed, you're going to look more at the big picture stuff. So managing your emotions obviously is going to help you to become more creative. So the obvious one is stress reduction. And in general, don't be stressed about being not stressed. What you have to be mindful is a little bit of stress is healthy, but overwhelming amount of stress is not. And if that's the case, you're not gonna have much ideas. So next up, what ideas are absolute shit. They are worthless. They are garbage. They do not matter. All of your ideas are completely worthless. Now, it's almost all very cool of me to say. But what do I actually want to say with this? Well, very simply put, your ideas, the value of your ideas, depends on the execution that you do with them. So an idea is worth as much as its execution. And that's something that I want you to keep in mind. Your ideas by themselves are not worth anything, because you might have had an idea already, about how to start a new business or how to improve the lives of many people. And then years later, you actually see that product on the market and you forgot about it or you didn't do anything with it and somebody else did. One of the ideas that I had back in the day, and for a company with my homies who time at least I thought we're gonna do a little bit of work, but apparently they were way too lazy. So we didn't actually do anything. We only were in the talking phase and the idea generation phase. And the idea in question was a chip with Bluetooth onto your keys, so that let's say you forget them, you can always find them back using a smartphone. Now that was in a time where smartphones weren't as relevant. And later I found out that another company had done them. So was it a great idea? Not really, because we didn't do anything with it. Because ideas have no intrinsic value. They only matter in a context and to where you apply. So that you gotta keep that in mind. Like that idea could have made me rich if I executed it properly, and that could have done so much for me. And then I would be maybe influential 30 under 30 or something like in the big magazines, and I would get all the nice things and stuff. But it's very easy to dwell on it, and looking back on it now, I definitely did not have the qualifications or the expertise in order to make it work, and my friends definitely not. So ideas have no, like, they're not worth anything, man. Do not marry any one of your ideas. They are replaceable. Doesn't mean you're not gonna have favorites, and I probably have favorites too from time to time. But generally speaking, like, don't be too obsessed about them. And sometimes you just have to put them back into your little note-taking application from Notion or OneNote or Evernote or whatever. Just put them back in there, and maybe in 5 years you're like, damn, that one idea that I had back in the day, that actually might be useful. And then, of course, we have another idea. And like, failure when it comes to getting ideas doesn't matter. Failure, in fact, some might say, might be preferred. Might be preferred. And the reason for it is, like, if you know what you want, you need to try things out, especially if it's a more complicated idea. But if you see something that has not worked, you have information of something less you have to do. Edison famously said about his lamps, like, I don't know, I now know, because he took like 10,000 or was it 1,000. Edison was a way better businessman, and he was an inventor, by the way, so some of this I might dispute. But the famous saying go, like 10,000 times to make the light bulb. It's a very great story, that's why everybody keeps repeating it. Or 10,000 tries, let's put it that. Yeah. 10,000 tries to make a light bulb. And he famously said something along the lines, it took me of ways that didn't work to find one that did. So, if you make something that's absolutely horrible, don't beat yourself up too much for it. Now, if it's something that needed to make you money or something like that, it's always good to look back and feedback and make it better. But since this is about generating ideas, not executing them, keep in mind, sometimes seeing things that are failures, to put it like that, they're just going to give you an idea maybe, and you have some information in the future. But failure is a human concept. Animals don't think of things as failures or not. They don't see it that way. Somebody who has given all of their time and energy to a hobby that they greatly enjoyed but didn't make enough money out of it, some people say that's a failure. But if you did if you did what you loved so much for your life, is that a failure? Fuck no. Fuck no, dude. So the formula is basically, we're gonna do is information times inspiration times emotional investment and there's one more secret to this yoink. Focus. There we go. This is the secret formula for unlimited creativity and having actual good ideas. So, like, this is some important mindset stuff and some very handy mindsets or traits. Very nice traits for unlimited creativity. The most obvious of the bunch, open-minded. You need to be open to new ideas and new experiences. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to participate or that you have to like anything or something. But I don't know, maybe if you are from the older generation, go on TikTok and scroll for 3 hours straight. Very bad for your productivity. So, open-minded. Naturally, it would be very nice to have all the experience in the world because the formula is information plus times inspiration. And the simple reason is like, if you're open-minded, you're going to get in more information, you're not going to be as closed off, and you're going to be more inspiration. You should be welcoming as much as you can inside to all kinds of different experiences, cultures, books, knowledge. That's why book banning is the devil, or at least one of the worst things you can do for intellectuals, is because they don't have more information, they have more inspiration. Intelligent people, or truly intelligent people, are not afraid to challenge their own views of the world. And if you don't challenge them, if you don't get that mind open, it stays closed, and a closed mind is bad at producing ideas. So naturally, we have to be flexible, and this is, do not marry your own ideas, for example. If you're executing on your ideas, do not be hung up on your specific vision. Now, it might be very good that you have an idea, and you really want it to be a specific way. Like, that can be extremely good. It's gonna be extremely challenging. The less flexible you are, the more challenging it's gonna become. But if you have a particular vision, clinging on to a few things that you really want to see in your vision can be a very good thing. But if you want to cling on the exact vision you have right now in your mind, it's a very bad idea. Because you don't know how the future is going to run. You don't know how reality is going to respond, to put it like that. And so, but for example, if you, I don't know, let's say you want to make your own cars. If you really want your cars to have only colorful colors, for example, and not black or something, that's a good idea, or pure white. That's a part of a vision that is completely understandable, as long as you're willing to be flexible on everything else. But flexibility is so damn important. Patience. You have to be patient, man. Like, in the generation of ideas and in the creation of your ideas. The simple being is, like, you can't force things. If you're gonna force creativity, more often it's gonna break than not. You have to be waiting, you have to be careful, you have to just let it simmer a bit from time to time. Point being is, don't discard your ideas as soon as possible, and don't discard something as soon as you made it. This is very important for people who are insecure about themselves or what they produce. But Just let it wait. Failures and inspiration is that we can have. Anything you can think of, you can create. I do not want to see people being limited by their own ideas. It's not possible. I don't think it's for me. I don't think I can do it. No. Now, given, like, sometimes it isn't, but the only real limitation, people, the only real limitation on execution of ideas are the laws of physics. And, of course, respect fellow man and or fellow human and nature. So, like, as long as you keep this in mind, you know what? I'm gonna make it. Wait. As long as you keep this in mind, everything is possible. Every single thing is possible. Like, just because you think like, I can't do it, bullshit. Like, and the simple reason being is no human is made from different cloth. No human is more perfect than another. They might have better advantages, sure. They might have more resources than you, sure. But that doesn't, like, having more resources is often worse for creativity. Being rich is worse for creativity than being poor is. Because if you're rich, why do you have to put effort into creating solutions if there's never a problem? So, what one man can do, another one can do too. It's one of my favorite quotes. Now, of course, same kinds for women. We don't gender discriminate here at the Whelsko channel. There is, like, just if one person can do it, anybody can do it. If you wanna, I don't know, jump out of an airplane, if one person can do it, anybody can do it. Now you might be a little bit more fearful than the, the plane instructor, but you can still do it. And some of these, I'm more than happy to admit that. How do I best put it? Like, it's not gonna be as evident to you as it is to me, probably. But just look up the craziest stories in history, the craziest people in history. Look them up, learn their stories, learn how they came to be. Read biographies of the greatest minds alive, or a bit like that. Just, this is the inspiration part. Feed your brain with information of these things, because there is more than enough unnecessarily hardcore evidence, because the only thing, physics and chemics and maths is the only thing you can hardcore stuff. But I know there's like this one famous example, and I unfortunately cannot give you a name of one of these things. And it was a professor explaining at a college, like very high math guys, that was like, and the professor was like, these two math problems, nobody has ever solved them. We don't know how to do them. So he literally tells all of his students, you cannot think of a solution to this problem. Now, one of the students was, fell asleep during class. By the time he woke up, of course, he didn't really pay attention to the lecture. And he thought the two exercises on the wall or on the chalkboard were homework assignments. It comes up the next day, and he actually solves both of the problems. Why? Why did that person in question do it? Was it because he was more of a genius? I did think he won a Nobel Prize afterwards, but why did this person have more of a success than all of the other students? Because all of the other students believed that it wasn't possible. That they didn't believe that it could be done. And their professor, the one that they looked up to, their authority figure said, nope, don't even try it, Vals. Can't do it. You're weak. you're not smart enough. He probably didn't say it like that, but like, believe me, you have no idea what you're capable of until you push yourself to the absolute limits. So just keep that in mind. Curiosity is key, but it killed the cat. Whelsko, that's enormously bleak of you. Yes, I know. Curiosity, like you need to have this feeling of I want to figure it out. I want to discover what's behind that. I want to really, get the answers. I truly want that. But I do want to make this clear. Like, if you want the answers to some things, be absolutely sure that you want the answers to those things. Because finding the answers out often means you can't go back. And if that means finding out about a family member that might have some juicy details, or finding very gruesome answers, you got like one of the great things about the great minds, the smart minds of the human race, is of course that they rather know the answers than back down, of course. But it's not always emotionally a very good idea. And pushing your boss, for example, in a work setting and trying to find out what the hell's wrong with him because he's acting like a jerk more than usual might do more harm than good. So basically, if you want to know the answers, be prepared to hear it. That's basically all I'm trying to say. Next up, boring is fun. Hey, what? Apologies for this burning up. What do you mean boring is fun? I hate the feeling of boring so much. When you are in a state of boring, that finally means you have a time to think. And that means you can daydream, so you can try to develop your ideas, which I will teach you, or at least guide you through how you can do that. You give your subconscious space to talk to your consciousness. It's a very complicated answer with a simple, I will tell it like it is. When you Okay. So when you are bored, your mind will send things up from deep down in your unconscious mind upstairs to your conscious mind and be like, hey, we need to process this. Hey, we need to think about this. Hey, we need to do this. Now, exactly what you need to do with it, that can be up for debate. That is a little bit situation dependable. But if you ever had, for example, you're driving in your car or riding a bike or just going for a walk, just on automatic pilot, so you weren't really thinking of, oh, now I need to switch, now I need to turn. If it was your first driver's lesson, you don't have the time for it. You're gonna be, what do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? And then you're fearful. Then like you're very focused on what's in front. But if you've been driving for a while, you're just gonna be laid back, and it's almost automatic pilot. It's very freaky, and sometimes you're even like, whoa, how did I get home so fast? I wasn't paying attention. Because your subconscious mind was paying attention. Also, pay attention when you're on the road. Keep that one in mind. So, but the thing is, boring is fun. This simply means that when you just sit on a chair and think and give your mind some room, things will come up. And sometimes that might be something very stupid, like, let's say you are, I don't know, your kids are almost leaving the house, and then your brain might be, remember that one time where we were like, we were trying to impress the teacher and we snuck up our hands to give the answer, and the whole class laughed at us? Remember that time? And you're gonna be like all of a sudden feeling really shit while you're still happy, and like so much time has passed. Well, often that times means that something hasn't been processed the way it should be, because generally speaking, with painful memories, what do our brains want to do? They want to learn from the situation so we can move on, get over it, and so it doesn't happen again. So we don't raise our hands up again and give a dumb answer again, and the whole class is laughing at us again. And but sometimes this might be ideas and something that we have to engage with our subconscious mind. So all this is a very long-winded approach to say boring is fun, because when you're bored, you give your brain time to process things, or give you the things it's processed. That's better said. So if you have gathered enough information and inspiration, and you're bored, all of a sudden your brain is going to shoot you up with ideas. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be bored all of a sudden. And I will say this, whenever we're talking about creativity, no distractions. And this is a major key. But being bored and meanwhile scrolling on through Facebook, like this thing off. If you want to know why your best ideas come in the shower, because this thing is usually gone when you're in the shower. If you're also bringing this thing in the shower, you have a problem, my friend. But because the thing is, like, even now, I have most of my notifications are turned off, and my brain starts to, at this point in time, starts to get used to it. But like, if I'm trying to give a lecture like this, and like my smartphone is non-stop here pinging like, hey, somebody wrote you, hey, somebody sent you a funny meme. Like, do you think my creative capabilities are gonna be stretched to their fullest capacity? No, of course not. They're gonna be non-stop. My attention is gonna be here, and you need your attention on the creative part once in a while. Don't need it all the time, in order to generate ideas. So that is that. Now, what else do we have to say? I'm gonna leave this there, because next subject is idea generation. We come to the holy grail of what this lecture is actually all about. Everything else was just nonsense. No, that was not nonsense, but they're like important concepts to truly get what you want. Because I want this class to stand on itself, that you can just watch this in its entirety, and that you have 85% of all the knowledge you ever need around this topic. And I wonder if it's too small. Maybe I should make it bigger. Probably has been too small. I'm sorry for that, by the way. Put on the a better high pixel, a better aspect ratio, not aspect ratio, definition. Put it in 1080p, then you know it's good to go. So, idea generation. We already know it's combining two things into one, or two old things something into one thing new. Okay. You need to have a few things for this, which is very simple. Join this thing. We need information, we need inspiration, we need emotional investment, and that we need to divide by focus, and that means the amount of creativity and your ideas. Handful. Okay. So, next up, how do we do this? What do we mean with information? Simply means facts, figures, things that exist, like literally information, dates maybe, you name it. So what is inspiration? This one is a good one. Inspiration is basically the same as before, but in creative settings, basically. So simply means there are like 7 wonders of the world. The Eiffel Tower, the pyramids in Egypt, etc., etc. And as an architect, that might be very good inspiration because it gives you. How do I define this best? That's actually a very difficult one. Inspiration is basically soaking up other people's ideas, and the Eiffel Tower and the pyramids of Egypt are like the big ideas of the architect world, or one of the bigs, because that's those are basically the pinnacles of human creation. So, but inspiration is simply, stories. For example, stories. And stories, what I mean with like any kind, so any media. So that means film, that means books, that means I don't know, comic books, that means podcast, radio host, yada yada yada. Inspiration is simply what somebody else did. So information is like cold hard facts, while inspiration is more of the human actions that have been evolved, or what some human created. And I know it sounds very vague, and I'm very sorry for it that I don't have a better explanation for it. But for example, the Dune is making movies again, the Dune franchise, and the Star Wars franchise. So Star Wars, the first planet is Tatooine. So that's the desert planet where Luke lives with his parents, and that planet has, for example, moisture farmers, and that all of that is based on the planet of where Dune takes place, the best-selling fiction book from Frank Herbert. Oh man, I hope I'm not butchering that, but the Dune books series. So, inspiration is the creativity of others. Creativity of other humans. No, of other things. The creative element. So, what do we mean with emotional investment? Well, simply put, emotional investment means you gotta be engaged emotionally. You gotta crank up your feelings of curiosity, for example. You need to be more curious. You need to feel more greatly towards something. You need to become a better. No, not become a better person, but it's like you think it's cool. Whoa, dude, that was the most amazing thing that I've ever fucking seen. Like, what? How? Those are basically two different reactions, and generally speaking, the more intense the emotion, the more engaged the subconscious. And don't forget, the subconscious is where it's at. That's where everything begins and ends. So, in other words, your brain takes, or your subconscious mind will take priority in where to invest resources, not based on logic, but based on idea generation. That's why it's so easy to procrastinate on school and work, because, I mean, who cares about that stuff, right? Probably shouldn't say that out loud, but. And then we have focus. Focus simply means structure and direction. What do we mean? Structure and direction. Well, okay. Very simply put, creativity in its freest form, with the unlimited creativity that we have, is very all over the place. It doesn't make sense. It is far away moved from land of physics and the laws of logic. So, what am I saying here? Basically, if you want to, okay, let's say this is the spectrum of your ideas. Well, That's quite a lot of area to cover, for example. So, but the thing is, like, you need to go you need to choose a direction which to go. And naturally, in most cases, it will look more like this. But this is more the road that you will travel. But the thing is, and this is even like already a good structure. Like, if you have a circle and you're in the middle, oh, I have an idea here, I have an idea here, I have an idea here, and then what's happening is like, this is creativity in its purest form. This is what happens when, for example, in psychedelic trips and stuff, like, it's you go from here to 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 here, there, and then you go take a scenic route there, here, and this is what happens when creativity has no way to go, because in the end, creativity is always working. That's what you gotta keep in mind. Creativity is always moving. It's always doing a thing. It's very, I mean, unless you're like some Buddhist monk that has been meditating for the last 20 years, maybe then you're not meditating. But like creativity keeps on moving. And what do you think is more clearly to make a painting out of, or make a business out of, or do something else? Is it this thing, or is it this is it this monstrosity, or is it this direction? And the blue one is a more idealized version. The yellow one is a more general, and the red one is like the more practical way of going and chasing your ideas. And that's generally because sometimes you have to go detour, sometimes you go back, but like this doesn't work. That's why you need structure. You need direction to go in, so you can go from point A to point B, and then from B to C, etc., etc. So this is a simple explanation of like the basics of idea generation. The way that goes further is basically we just keep building on that. So we know it's combining two old things in new. So how do we fucking do this? Like, Whelsko, you've been talking so long, and I know, but you need to have a good foundation. Once that's set up, like, you're gonna skyrocket. So a good foundation is simply like we got it. Like, and when we have all these things, so information, you don't necessarily need to remember the specifics, but you need to remember not exactly, but an approximation. So let's say an area we need creativity in. Do we need, if it's for cooking? So I'm gonna give you some examples for cooking. I know, for example, Gordon Ramsay. He has like this Michelin star thingy, but after he got that star, and Michelin is like the highest a cook or a chef can get, after he got that, he still made like a show, which I don't know exactly what it's called. So he's basically one of the best cooks in the world. And then he has like a show Uncharted from National Geographic. And what he does in the show is simply he goes around the world to local villages, to local people, to basically learn their cooking and learn their style. And why the hell would this absolute master, a world recognizing best of the best chef, do that? Well, it's inspiration. Because if he wants to earn more of those stars, for example, I don't know if he wants that, but by doing those things and going to all the places around the world, you will learn so many new things, and you will have inspiration of how certain people cook their meat, and how in another they have a great way so you don't have to cut vegetables, and that in turn might do Gordon to mix up his restaurants, which make him a whole bunch more money and save him a whole bunch more time. I don't know. But so that's an example from the cooking. What else? In business, when a business has a great idea, what do? Well, it's, if you see your competitor having a great idea, you're gonna copy that. And I know, like, Snapchat stories. This is more in social media. What happened? Instagram added stories. And Facebook added stories. And then TikTok used Vine short videos, which are basically also stories. Only with stories are like more personal. So it's like, hey, what up? It's Whelsko making another vlog. Not another vlog, another class. And like short videos is more like what I'm doing here, but then like take 30 seconds of it. But in the end, they're like also like they're also like stories. And YouTube added shorts. And what do all these have in common? Like, they're basically all short format videos on a 9:16 format, and yeah, this is not called stories. This was called Vines. So so they have a 9:16 format, and they're basically less than 3 minutes each. All of them did this, and Snapchat, I think, was the first, and then Instagram copied it. And since Instagram is owned by Facebook, Facebook naturally copied it, because why wouldn't it? It's not like Facebook is the moral high ground of the business world. So how does this look in, for example, movies, movie making? There's this one video on YouTube. I hope I don't forget to link it up here in the corner or here. I have no idea where the corner is from my point of view, but I know Quentin Tarantino. He's seen as one of the best movies makers of all time, and he has made 9 movies in his life. 9. The first one of those was the Reservoir Dogs, and then of course Pulp Fiction hit like a truck in pop culture, so instantly giving him name recognition. And then I think it was Kill Bill. But like, if you watch that video that I linked, you will see all of his inspirations from from older movies and from what he thinks. And Quentin Tarantino is like the absolute, I think it's cinephile or something disgusting like that called. Like, I don't know, like, it's very weird name, but basically somebody who loves movies. Not saying Quentin is disgusting, by the way. I really have respect for the man. But in that video, you see how the way he talks about all these movies from the past. Like, that man has the complete picture. Like, this has the ultimate this formula down. First of all, he knows probably every single thing about every single movie. He knows every single actor who was the movie director, who made it, what year, like what cameras were used, all like these very hardcore stuff, like equipment used, places, location filmed, and stuff like that. And then he has these inspirations. What were the great scenes of the 1930s? I don't know. Or the 1940s? I don't know. What's the greatest movie of all time? What were, what are the best movies from the 70s? What is the best TV show ever? Pretty sure Quentin Tarantino, on all those questions, can give you a very lengthy answer on all of them. And in that video, you also see like exactly that some of the scenes in his movies are basically, I wouldn't say, stolen bit for bit, but if you put those 2 scenes of the old movie and the one in his movie side by side, yeah, I mean, it looks very, very identical. You can clearly see where the inspiration come from. And, his emotional investment is through the roof. Like, I've probably never seen somebody as hyped talking about movies as that guy. And his focus, because all of this only matters if you can focus all of that energy and all of that information to a passion project, yeah, and then you become a good filmmaker. And you can say what you want about his movies, and you might not like them, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm not the biggest fan of some of his movies, but I can clearly recognize that creatively, they're amazing. And now they're saying like, but yeah, what should I do? Should I just do like Quentin Tarantino, and just copy every old movie? That's not what he does. He copies. Doesn't copy anything. He takes something old. He puts them in his new universe, in his new characters, the ones that he created, and then he puts them two together, and then he has like a unique spin to it. And so, exactly that. Same with, you know what? I'll just give you the secret formula, because I should have given you that in the previous section, but I'm just gonna do it now. If you steal from one person, it's plagiarism. If you steal from 10 persons or people, it's called research. This is in terms of writing. This is one of the best writing advice that I've ever got. So basically, take a bunch of movies and tell them, what do you call it? Take 10 movies, take the best parts and put them into one, and you would have a pretty good movie. And then, of course, how do we prevent that from being stale? Put your personality into it, man. Put what you like, what you love, what you hold dear, what you find important. You put that in this creation that you are making. And apparently, Quentin Tarantino said, for example, that most of his movies are very personal to him one way or another. And we don't need to have an answer to that. But, we can pretty safely say that a Quentin Tarantino movie is a Quentin Tarantino movie. He really stands out from the pack. Same way that Marvel movies have become Marvel movies. And the Marvel movies are a little bit more streamlined, but I would say they are very creative. The, what's it called? Infinity War and Endgame. Whew! One of the best movies ever. Like, those two combined. Absolute bezoinkers. And Endgame, what it literally had to tie together, I don't know, 30 people at once. And if you want to know the secret behind these two, the secret was to make the main protagonist, because you have Spider-Man, Iron Man, all of these interesting characters, but you can't make all of them the lead star of it. So the main protagonist in this case was big bad guy Thanos, and everything resolved around him. And that way we could follow basically every single character arc through that they would experience by going after Thanos. That's basically how they got away with that. And it's very smart. But back to that, it's with Quentin, it's his movies, and again, this stealing from 10 people is basically called research. Now, naturally, we're not gonna. When I say this stealing, do not just be Quentin. With Quentin, he definitely is gonna be oh, I should say Tarantino is better recognizable, but he pays homages. If he talks, he talks with great passion about it, and it's probably his biggest, emotional investment. And with all of these, this is basically the biggest thing when the big franchises go morally bankrupt. It's they do all these great things and all these great information, and they respect the lore, and they have like think about Star Wars, like everything was on point, or think about Game of Thrones, every single thing was on point with these guys, except there was no focus, there was no structure, and there was also no emotional investment. They banked too much on these two and too little on these two, and that's basically why Game of Thrones and Star Wars ultimately in the end failed badly, or at least the movies in Star Wars case. And Game of Thrones, by the way, fantastic series. So much creativity went into that project. And what was the ultimate downfall of that one? The writing. Like, writing single-handedly ruined Game of Thrones. I mean, guess you could say directing, but directing was just basing on the writing. That, I'll be more specific before I make people mad. This is the biggest downfall to Game of Thrones, and you could even say season 7. Like, everything was perfect, but it just didn't make sense. Our brains were very like, get away from me. Because, like, there was no logic to it. You start to think like, hey, wait, but these guys died earlier. Like, how can they get so fast from that place to this place? And then, like, if that starts to happen, your brain is not gonna go, it's not going focusing on what's happening. It's focusing on what you're thinking. His ability to, I guess you could say, flex a little bit and to go more in depth is something that needs to be trained, but it's not that difficult. In the end, like, if you are used to your field, your ideas will be going crazy. But the inspiration is very important. Inspiration is gonna be found in the places you least expect it. And so, I don't know, if you are a lawyer, go watch a children's TV show. Find some inspiration there. I recently saw some SpongeBob episodes. The legality of SpongeBob episodes, as in not the episodes and like what's inside the episode, in the world of Bikini Bottom at SpongeBob, like, woof, holy moly, the legal system over there was completely different, and that's a great idea for, that's the place where I would least expect a lawyer to come up is with a SpongeBob, and of course we this you might think, Whelsko, what are you saying? You're absolutely crazy, and basically, is that crazy? No, because in the practicing of laws, there is what's called a Chewbacca Defense, and I don't know exactly what it does, but simply put, it's from South Park. This was just, when South Park was very much in its early stages, and the Chewbacca Defense is something that lawyers actually study, because the Chewbacca Defense is basically when a lawyer starts talking about, I don't know exactly what it is naturally, I'm not a lawyer, but Chewbacca Defense is like, why does Chewbacca live on the planet Endor? And so this is what the South Park writers had, just think about it, the scene in question is simply two lawyers battling it out over I think it was a piece of music, and they battle it out in court, and like big record label hires an expensive lawyer, and all that the lawyer does is talk about Chewbacca. Why it doesn't make sense that Chewbacca lived on Endor, which was a quote-unquote failure from Star Wars, you could say, and the writers of South Park, had some issues with that, and that's what they did. So, yeah, man. I guess, like, the Chewbacca Defense is very well known in the law world, at least in the United States, if I'm correct. And it comes from a very stupid cartoon, I guess. It's not stupid. South Park's, like, all-time favorites. One of the best things ever. So, like, stealing ideas, like, don't worry about it. Read a book, Steal Like an Artist. So, it's another book recommendation. if you feel afraid. That book is very short and will give you all the information you need about how to quote unquote steal perfectly. And paying homage to the ones that came before you is very noble and is very respectable. And I always love seeing where, for example, in this case, the Chewbacca Defense is quite clear, but like where the greats came from and who were their inspirations. So yeah, let's continue on. So we can do an exercise if you really want to, and that is we simply go and we force two things together. So I have here a random word generator. I have no clue what the random words are going to be. And so the idea of this is you take two things and you find a way to connect them together. And this can be in all sorts of matters. But in this case, your information and inspiration is everything you have inside and the two random words. So I will do it like this, so you can like see it. I do have to find a button, so I don't... Oh, god damn it. So, yeet. Okay, so I have snatch. And I have pick. The hell? Snatch and pick. Holy shit. Snatch plus pick. These are my two random words. Snatch, if I'm correctly presuming, it's like stealing, for example, a purse. Snatch definition. I'm gonna look up definition. To attempt to see something suddenly, okay. And to pick. Pierce penetrate with a pointed. Oh wow. So, for example, I snatched that purse using an ice pick. It's not the most noble of examples, but this is how we would go about. And if you're like really fancy, you can do like multiple of these. But in this case, I don't know exactly how to put... Yeah, this one might be a little bit hard, but the idea of this exercise isn't necessarily to do things right. It is to train your brain and to condition yourself to put two things together. And this is what I had to, came up with pick, because, I don't know exactly what to do. My little brother snatched one of the apples that I picked from the orchard. And you can keep doing this for as long as you want, or with multiple words. The idea is just train that creative brain. Simple exercise, and sometimes I sometimes use this like to just see what happens. And I don't use random word generators all the time. I sometimes use this if I am like studying two things at once, or in very close proximity to another. Maybe physics, and maybe something on how to change emotions, and then I try to like force what does this thing that I just learned in physics have to do with this thing in with how emotions work. And sometimes nothing happens, but sometimes you can be surprised. So that's basically the idea. You force things together. Not force necessarily in the sense that you smash, but like these two need to work together. How can I make these work together? That's another good trick on how to be an idea generation machine. How can I fix these two together? Questions. Questions are the answers. And what does that mean? The answer you seek is in the question that you ask. And that simply means if you want to have a better question, a better answer, ask a better question. How do I improve my hair? And then you might be, oh, well, Whelsko, your hair is too long. Boom. And I just cut a piece of my hair, and now my hair is quote-unquote improved. So in that case, the question is probably, how do I get which hair cut should I take in order to become a model, in order to look absolutely fine, like in the, so I can be put on a billboard. Oh man. Okay, it might have not been the most substantial example, but it is definitely an example, because me cutting my hair like I did is probably not the way to go out doing so. And now I have to walk around with a piece out of my hair. So a better question would then be, how do I improve my hair so the whole world thinks I'm sexy? That's a very different question. And so how do we ask better questions? We have the what, we have the where, we have the when, we have the why, and we have the how do you do question. So how do you do is like you ask how questions to find out the methods and tools, equipment, etc., etc. The why is of course is most important for finding reasons and investments. The when, I mean, it's quite evidence, time or event. And then we have the where, place, location, and what is basically who, which object, animal, etc. So, and then how can I maximize my business growth in that's a bad question. How can I, not you, I improve double my profits by the end of next year? And what you do is you ask that question over and over and over and over and over again, and you just think about it. And then, because the thing with questions force our brain to give you an answer. And so what happens is, by asking the right questions, you will get more answers and more specific answers. Because if you say, I want to have more money, how do I get more money? Well, I ask my neighbor for 5 euros. Now I have more money. Probably not what you mean, right? You probably be like, oh, I want to be rich. I want to fight the legendary pirate's treasure. But that's like what I mean. And why is saving the climate the most important thing for humanity? And in order to ask the questions, I've got a whole course planned for that. So but that's not necessarily all the techniques that we use for idea generation. So you have to keep that in mind. It's a very simple overview of what to do. And and just before I forget, the ability to force things together, the ability to translate can be translate ideas or communication is important to get that done. Some people might have great ideas, but they can't explain it for shit. If you are a absolute genius that spends I don't know, that you wrote a thesis when you were 16, but nobody wants to talk to you because your people skills suck, not a good idea. So even with great and powerful concepts, you have to be able to explain them properly. And so let's go. One more thing I will teach you is a Feynman technique. Feynman technique. And that's of course from the famous Richard Feynman, who was a genius mathematician that learned himself it, and he made like Feynman. Damn, I probably should have taken a break. Feynman technique. So basically, that simply means how to translate concepts into something that is understandable. Because inspiration, by the way, concepts also fall under this category. Why? Because generally speaking, a concept, once you've learned a concept, there's basically no going back. Once you know what gravity is, there's basically no way that you get to a place where, like, you forget what gravity is. We can easily forget numbers and dates and stuff, but like things, because it makes sense, right? Like if there's we were back in the primitive days and we were in the woods, and all of a sudden a tiger jumped out of the place and it ate one of our crew tribal members. You're like probably gonna remember that a tiger, or throwing spears at the tiger is not a good idea, or it might be. But point is, our brains are exactly made for dealing with concepts. Like, piss off this animal, you probably die. And of course, we have the Darwin Awards, so not all people think about, twice before going to dangerous animals. But I digress. Feynman technique, so we first need to know the concept. And we just learn it like we normally do. We just explore it. And we think about it, and we learn it the way it is. And we also have to know, like, very clearly what the concept is we're learning. So let's take Greek fire, and then we have to know how does this work? How does this work, Greek fire? Well, Greek fire is basically like normal fire, but you cannot extinguish it with water. What is it made of? We don't know. / lost to history. And then most likely a chemical compound. Okay, so it is like normal fire, but you can't extinguish it with water. And then we have to think about analogies. Where have we seen this before? How does this relate to something else? So analogies is basically the best way to go about doing it, or something relatable. And in this case, so we've talked about Game of Thrones before. Pig fire is the equivalent in Game of Thrones, and it looks green instead of normal fire. Other than that, works about the same. And the way they explained it in Game of Thrones, I think, was in order to extinguish, you need to urinate on it. And then the fourth step is teaching it to others. And this might not be the perfect concept to teach, because there is definitely a hidden element. We don't know exactly how the Greek fire existed. This was around, I think, 500 after Christ. So, yeah, 500 basically, in Constantinople. Or it might have been Istanbul by then, I don't know. But year 500 in Constantinople. And this is the time period that it was placed. And of course, if you were a sailor, this was very bad, because your ships were made completely out of wood, and the sails were also flammable. And if the enemy shot you, or like your ship, with fire that you can't extinguish with water that's literally under you, you know, and you have to basically urinate on it, not the best thing. So this is the simple overview of Feynman technique. Basically, you need to know the concept clearly. You need to know what you're talking about. Don't mix up concepts. You know, put it in big letters what you're working about, and then how does it work? Then we find out exactly how it normally works, and then we use analogies. And in this case, I'm just using simply something that from a fiction series, basically, and then teach it to others. Analogies also work if you can work with metaphors. Metaphors are also very, very good in this case. If you can find a metaphor to... And I will tell you on top of this is a secret. Simply, the metaphor is the common ground. So see it a little bit like a Venn diagram. Don't have to make some more room. See it a little bit like a Venn diagram. So this is concept 1. And then we have concept 2. And then we have concept number 3. And if you truly want to understand it perfectly, being able to see the difference between this, like, you know, the metaphor is basically encompasses both of them. They work in like 2 of these, like the analogy and the concept you're teaching, and being able to understand like, oh, this has different. This is so different in this way, and this one is different in that way. So, for example, so the way in this case we have the sun and how the Earth revolves around the sun, and then we have an atom, how an electron revolves around that. Basically, an electron can be all over the place, so it can like switch its rotation and stuff. But the Earth switching the rotation of the sun, that's kind of scary. Now, theoretically speaking, the stuff can happen which makes the Earth lose the, you know, doesn't revolve around the sun in the same way anymore. Like, I don't know, yeet off into space, but the chances of that are very small. And if that happens, we all die anyway. So you can safely assume that the Earth revolves around the sun in a set pattern, while an atom doesn't necessarily do that, because electrons doesn't necessarily do that because they aren't fixed in place and they can be simultaneously everywhere in the quantum world. But quantum physics, like, my head off and probably yours head off. So excuse me for the long-winded explanation of the Feynman technique. So we go to the next one, and that is all right. The next item on top of the list will be I'll give you one more thing in case you want to learn a lot of techniques and stuff. Competence first, and creativity second. So if you are new in the field, or you want to learn something and you don't, or you want to execute something but you don't necessarily have the skill set for it, literally copy other people first. Follow a YouTube tutorial about graphic design, follow it exactly to the letter. No personality thrown into that. No, you know, the goal is that you learn the competence so you can use those tools and techniques to apply them to a different situation elsewhere. So that's a very important one. Keep that one in mind. Don't worry too much about it. Like, first learn the thing, then use the thing to do something. All right. So other than that, in terms, if you are working on it, never bend, always bend, never break. If you need to pivot from idea generations, starting over from scratch can be very useful, because if you start over from scratch, you now have an idea of what went wrong and what was right. So you can only go forward with what was right. You do have to start over a little bit again, but that's, you know, not the worst. And once you are started getting over it, shouldn't be too worried. Okay, next technique, or very simple thing, is called up chunking. It's called chunking. And we have two chunks, two ways of chunking. We have up chunking and we have down chunking. And why do we use these techniques? I learned these in the NLP courses, but I think they are generally applied everywhere. And chunking simply means putting together in chunks, or not putting together in chunks. And what does simply mean? We have up chunking, which is going up levels, so that is going more specific, not specific to general. So that is general and abstract, like very vague concepts. And then we have down, which is specific, precise. And so how does this look? If we want to go down chunk, let's go from down chunking first. So for example, we were just talking about the sun. We go for the sun, then we go for a planet or planets. Then we go to continents. You know, like got Earth. So, and then we have like the Americas, we have Europe, we have Asia, and then we go to countries. And then we go to provinces. This states. That's what the United Staters call it, the states. Then we have villages, cities, and we have villages, and then we have like neighborhoods. So it's, for example, and then we have a tiny house. What we could do. And this process, what we just did here, is called down chunking. And the other process called up chunking. So if we start here and then go there. Now, Whelsko, what the hell, man? Why is this necessary for creativity? Well, sometimes you have to go more big picture stuff, and sometimes you have to go more focused. For example, frustration often arises when you are stuck with something creative. So stuck, creatively stuck. And then what happens is people are like, I don't know where to go. So taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, is enormously important. For example, I'll give you another thing. I never struggle with writer's block. And exactly how I do that, I mean, I guess I can tell you most of it right here. Simply put, writer's block is when you're basically stuck creatively on how to express yourself on putting something onto paper. And the thing is just, I don't have that problem. Why? Because I will never start writing something if I don't know what I'm gonna write about. I'd rather go for a walk or do something else meanwhile, so that my brain can generate new ideas. So this thing can go, because the big secret is idea generation happens in your subconscious. Ideas are generated in your subconscious mind. And so basically, I drain my short-term memory. The concept we talked about earlier is like the magic number 7 plus minus. So in other words, the 10 items. As soon as I'm a little bit stuck, I drain my subconscious mind by focusing on other tasks. And then an hour later, I might come back to it, and I'm like, oh, I have 5 new ideas on how to tackle this problem. And then I just go with it. And some of them might be complete and utter garbage, complete and utter trash that nobody would ever want to read. But I'm not stuck. And I didn't really sit there 5 hours in front of my screen. Like, oh, I gotta write. Even if you're on a deadline, sometimes taking a 5-minute break does wonders. It's the same. Everybody probably has had this situation in one way or another. You basically are super stuck, super frustrating. I have this with video games. I had it all the time when I was growing up. I literally could not get past it. I would try for hours and hours and hours trying to defeat this guy, trying to jump on top of that platform, and nothing would work. Absolutely nothing. And then the next day, first try, boom, hit it, just continue. So, because it's a simple concept that we've been talking about, like, when you sleep, your memories are formed and everything short-term and stuff, like, that's where your long-term memories are created. If you have a memory, like right now you're watching this, it's a little memory, and you never went to sleep, that memory would never become like a real long-term form. We don't know exactly why we sleep, but we do know that sleeping is extremely important for long-term memory. And I'm assuming when you wake up, unless, like, there's something very heavy going on, the idea is that the problem you have today, if you sleep over it, you wake up in the morning, you have a fresh mind. My great-grandfather always said, if you're angry, go take a walk and wake up, and don't, if you can, of course, there's sometimes you're not allowed to do it, and don't do anything with it until the next morning. And it sounds very dumb, but like from how our brains work type of advice, incredibly insightful. Because even if you're like angry, just taking on a walk instantly calms you down quite a notch. And going to bed probably will do the same thing. If you're still mad after that, then there's probably a big issue that you need to tackle. So, fixing. We keep going. How do I do most of my ideas? And how do I never struggle from a writer's block? I will give you the golden technique, the $1 million technique, the one that every single one wants, the one that will make you a unstoppable creative genius. At least it did it for me. It's called the Tesla technique, and I have it from the famous inventor and genius. Just realized I cut my own hair earlier. The things I wouldn't do to give you this information. If you are very fancy and if you have this capability, lucid dreaming. Before we go on Tesla technique, if you are one of the lucky persons that from a natural way can lucid dream, please tell me how. Please tell the people in the comment section how. Please teach us exactly how you do this. How do we lucid dream? The reason being is I have no clue. The science doesn't know much about dreaming either. And from all I know is in order to basically you have to be emotionally aware inside of you have to be conscious inside of your dream without being conscious of the fact that you're dreaming. That is very confusing. But the thing is, if you are aware inside of your dream while you are sleeping, and you'll be like, hey, this is a dream, you instantly wake up. No idea why that has to be the case. You instantly wake up, and you of course lose your dream. And in a lucid dream, you can do literally anything you want. You can fly, you can, I don't know, like go to other planets and stuff, and you can have superhuman strength. You can have anything you want, and it will actually feel like you will actually feel things, all while you're sleeping. And that's a lucid dream. And do I know exactly how that works? Absolutely not, brother. I am very sorry to disappoint you, but I do know Tesla technique, and that simply means Tesla suffered from, at least what I can understand, from a neurological condition in which basically he hallucinated all the time. And Tesla was kind of a madman, and he probably had a lot of emotional issues. And then the question becomes, of course, I mean, he was an absolute genius, and genius and madness is very close to each other. It's a very thin line to walk. And so then the question, of course, becomes, how did he do that? Well, he had the ability to basically lucid dream all the time when he was alive. Of course, naturally, he couldn't fly and stuff. But what he would do was make all of his inventions, all of his constructions and stuff, he would make them in his head first. But since he could hallucinate them, it would be as like, I don't know, he would place a contraption right on his hand here, and then he would like study it like this, and thanks to his hallucinations, he could like, you know, use his imagination to put like bolts, and for him it felt incredibly real. Now I can do that too, but I can only do it in here, not out here. And of course I could like do magic editing. So basically he would do it like in so much detail and so perfect, and he knew it was an hallucination by the fact simply as soon as he touched it, so the hand was probably not the best idea, but like as soon as he touched it, the invention would disappear. Like absolutely fascinating stuff. So like, Whelsko, I can't hallucinate. So I mean you can, but that being said, in order to get ideas, don't take any form of drugs. Not need. Like if you follow all of this advice and you like get it, you know, you get in the habit. You don't need to be good at it. You just need to get in the habit. You will be good at it. So Tesla technique, and simply put, have a complete picture of your idea executed in your head. Whelsko, question. When I use this, am I allowed to use drawings and stuff? Yes, you are. You pick a piece of paper, start writing down stuff. You know, start drawing. Doesn't matter. You're allowed to do that naturally, but some of the things that I make, and I spend a lot of time alone. Having alone time is incredibly important if you want to have creative, because again, no distractions for the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. Basically, Photoshop. I mean, not Photoshop. Like, I mean, Photoshop is also good. Like, if you want to draw, I guess, but you need to know the program. But I do recommend that you only write down like small things such as, or type down things such as the things you need in order to not forget it. You don't necessarily need to be, how do I put this? Like, the whole idea is not to work on it until you have a complete picture. And I will show you exactly a something that I recently did. So, okay, I'm gonna have to do that in post edit, but I will show you a thumbnail that I recently made, and I will say you this: the thumbnail in question, it was when I started working on it. It only took me about half an hour to make, and it was a very difficult one compared to normal. And the reason it only took me half an hour to make was because I had the amazing ability, or I did the amazing Tesla technique, so that I basically, like, when I say make it, of have a complete picture of your idea executed, you actually make it. So what I was doing was, this was for a video game called Rust, and where, so you will see it on screen, and here's another picture of it on screen. Kind of hard to see. Oh yeah, we can do it like this, right? You guys can see that? Perfect. So what I would do is, like, I will tell you this right now. These are all the things that I didn't thought of my mind was the glow here, like the glow around this. That's something, because you can see it here. I kind of messed it up a little bit. But like, you know, the here there's like glow, and on these letters there's no glow. And so all like this glow and this sign sticking out, this sign was a picture of something that happened inside of the game. So I already had that screenshot to work with. But I had limitations here because there was like things I had to remove here, which I didn't really remove. I just accidentally cropped it out. I this was something. So this like speech bubble from in the comics, because I really wanted it to have like this fun, not professional vibe at all. That's what I was going for. Then of course this letter, the way letter font is exactly taken from an intro, or from the intro, like the big title intro. And the big difference here is that some of the outfits were not the ones that I had in my head, but that didn't necessarily matter. So I will tell you this right now. This outfit, 100% that I thought about that one. This one, not. The funny thing also is, by the way, in this movie, there was 8 people here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, what? There's 9. There's 9. Okay, so I basically, so this guy in the back, I did think of. This guy I didn't think of. So this one is incorrect. This one I did think of. This one I thought 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 of because it was like centerpiece. And just so you know, like I asked my friend Oscar, who this is about, his permission. So it's not like I bully him to bully him. And of course, I wanted to make this guy. In my head, when I was making this, the tears were looking a little bit more realistic. So I guess in my head, I placed them here. So, I mean, and this guy, I didn't think of. So, like, all in all, what in the end happened is I added a glow effect here, which was not that hard to do. 5 minutes of work. I added 2 more characters here, which is kind of strange because when you think about it, there's the noob squad, the squad. There's one too many people on it. Now nobody knows this, of course, unless you watched it all the way through, and then we're like, oh, on the thumbnail there were 9 people instead of 8. Go right. Like nobody cares about that. Yeah. I mean, if you care about such little things, come on, man. Or at least, or mad about that little thing. If you're like, hey, Whelsko, in the comments, hey, Whelsko, this one is. There's more people than there were in the game. Yeah, the bone armor dude. But I don't know. I thought it had some comedic effect. So yeah, this is how. And again, I gave it as a test to other people, and they liked it quite a lot. So I would say I would safely say like 80%. No, you know what? I'm gonna say 88% of this thumbnail I made in my head before I ever touched it in this one. Now I will say this: in order to get all these characters, I had to do a photo shoot. So the actual thumbnail itself, took 30 minutes, but the photo shoot took quite a lot longer. But the photo shoot I also can use for like all kinds of projects. So it's like a template, I guess you could say, the photo shoot. So because what I do is, because then I have a lot of information to work with. Then I have like 100 different photos of each character. Each of these characters I probably have like 30, 40, 50 photos, and then I just pick out the ones with, like, on how they look, and that's a simple process of elimination. Which are the most inspiring looking, and because you can probably see it, some of these have like emotes, I guess you could call them, like little dances. And this guy, these are the 3 with emotes. So I mean, I knew this one's gonna be on top. I didn't know about this one. This one I did know they was gonna have a gun. This one knew I was gonna have a bow. And yeah, and of the glow, The outside glow I didn't think of in my head too. So that's this red thing all around it. So I would say everything else I had in my head, and it looks. No, this is the Tesla technique in action. Now, you can call me out for this, and you can call me full of shit. That I am basically, I mean, I could be making this up, fair and square, buddy, fair and square. But like, when you do this in your head, by the way, like I literally, pretend basically as if I was doing that. So I would be, I don't know, walking in the woods, and then you might even see me like typing with my eyes closed. So probably looks pretty weird. Probably looks pretty weird. But so one of the things I was doing in my head when I was making this in my head, I was swapping these guys around, because I had some, it's for a movie that happened to me in Rust. So most of these outfits were basically like the outfits the squad mates mostly wore. So all I had to do was like have enough inspiration to have like an Avengers moment, I guess you could say. Because I really took inspiration of like these big group photos. And Avengers is one that comes to mind, but like like the superhero team squads up. That one was the inspiration, because it's basically a parody inside of a game on top, like on like a superhero squad. Obviously, why it's called the Noob Squad. It's very self-aware. So this one, for example, I knew it was gonna be either on this side or on this side, and then I noticed that, for example, these two were the only ones in my head with the wolf, with the wolf. So I thought like they stand opposite of each other, so that looks very nice. And then this was like the sign, and these guys was crying. This one I knew, because this was like the anchor. This was like the centerpiece. This one is the one that I was like, this one has to be there, and this one has to end. And like okay, I'm making quite a mess of this. So, but I like, the thing is just like so like this one was central, so this one was most important, and this outfit is like the stereotypical for this game, Rust. So this one was also very important to me. So I thought like these are the perfect ones. We have the crying Oscar, because Loki a reference to Oscar. And I obviously talked it through with him, and he's not mad at me for that. And I definitely asked his permission. Like, if he said no, I wouldn't be showing this right here. And that's what I meant with like, there are no limitations. Just respect the laws of physics and respect yourself and other humans. Like, there's no need to hurt other people just so you can make your ideas work. And then this one I also knew, so process of elimination, right? And I knew there was another outfit with a wolf headdress, so that means these wolf heads. So that's the blue guy. And so at this point, we had this guy to fill in, this guy to fill in, this guy to fill in, and this guy and this guy. But like, this is, by the way, what we mean with focus here. Focus or structure. Like, I already placed this guy here, so shoot. And this red, I'm making this very confusing probably, and like not explaining this very clearly, but like this was my figure to work with, and like the only thing I had to do was fill this in, and then just add somebody in the middle. But you see, like, the hero squad is the inspiration, the information is all the outfits, the focus is this thing plus this thing plus this thing, and then emotional investment. It was basically how a group of friends, I mean, I don't know if it's friends is the right word, but a group went onto a server to try and conquer it, and absolutely failed miserably. Like, failed in every step along the way. But we the thing is, we were laughing non-stop about it. So, and this, I'm trying to give you some design examples and stuff, but like, hopefully you understand at least a little bit of what I mean. Like, that 88% of this was done in my head before it ever reached in the Photoshops. So yeah, that's the Tesla technique, very important one. Then we got chunking. And, you know, like, because it's like a painting, these thumbnails. And there are... It's all, like, you need to focus, because, like, Star Wars, for example, you know, the Star Wars 7, for example, you know, this is the really newest trilogies. We got 8, and we got 9. Okay, so for example, what happens here? Disney was like, we hire 3 different directions, and they can all do whatever they want. So they want to create a trilogy, and they can do whatever they want. But, you know, like, as you can probably imagine, this one was basically copy-paste. There was not a lot of creative in. This one, very creative, but basically pretended everything before didn't matter. You know, so some people watched the first movie 40 years ago, so they're pretty emotionally invested, like it matters. But it's basically the most polarizing movie ever on the Star Wars sides, at least. And then we have this one, and that was basically a quick... It was like a Frankenstein monster, you know, put together with duct tape. There were a lot of things wrong that went to production, and like, so you got basically a copy-paste, one that was a little bit creative, but again, same with Game of Thrones. Didn't respect the past, didn't really put, you know, good storytelling practice. Again, what, like, emotions were all over the place. And then we have like the last one that has to basically put the previous 9 films all together in a conclusive ending, and basically, you know, this one was set up for this ending, but this one, the middle one, basically destroyed everything that this one set up. So this one had to set up with the next setup of the previous setup. And it's like, you know, we create such a mess. There's very little focus. Whatever you think of the movies, by the way. And then you have The Mandalorian, and it is space bounty hunter, you know, foster care baby. It's a massive hit. Like, if you ask all the Star Wars fans, like 90% of them are gonna love The Mandalorian. And these films, like 50-50-50, everybody's on the 50-50-50 side. And why is this? You know, very simple focus. We just follow around the dude that meets a lot of bad guys that want to screw him over. And we, you know, basically he has to take care of a baby for an X amount of time. Because that's his culture, basically. Everybody loves this. And I know it's like a very small discussion of the Star Wars thingy. But we got multiple franchises that break boundaries and that push the limits. And when you push the limits first, everybody else will follow. That's the beautiful thing about it. And sometimes you just have to not push the limits anymore and break every single thing you had. You just have to make whatever you had work, but with a different spin on it. And yeah, because like Breaking Bad, for example, has a very conclusive ending. I won't spoil, by the way. It's very conclusive. Like, the writers seem to know that it would end like that, the way it did. While in Game of Thrones, it's like, oh shit, we have to you know, oh shit, we have to make an ending. Yeah, so that happened. I mean, there's not much more to add here, I'm assuming, because like Breaking Bad, there, you know, like it's like seen as one of the best shows ever, and I think everybody has a very bad taste in from Game of Thrones. But it's very important to understand why, because we can take inspiration from that. Their failure might be our success, just so you know. And, you know, naturally we have things like gaming, which are the ultimate form of creativity, because if to make a good game, or depending on which game, of course, but, you know, like we need music, we need 3D artists, we need 3D artists or sculptures, we need voice actors, we need facial animations, we need animation basically. Like, and then we need mechanics on top of that. Mechanics. And these, like, all these different creative fields combined to make, like, this one product. It's absolutely amazing. So, I think we covered most of it. Like, the Tesla technique is the most important. And, like, especially if you're creating worlds and stuff like that, make an idea and just give it to your subconscious mind. You know, flush out your short-term. Ask your subconscious mind the question. I want to create, you know, so let's say we create a fantasy novel. Maybe we should do that, like be a little bit yeah, let's do that. Let's do a final exercise and then quit this picture. So yeah, 3D voice actor, blah blah blah. Okay. So now I will demonstrate to you live exactly another thing, a very powerful technique that I learned from a math video. And I hope I can still find the video in question where I originally got the inspiration from. So then you know like how I put math and creativity together. So okay, this is not going to be written down the best, but I hope you at least can follow. So we have the pyramid of Pascal. The Pascal pyramid, that's a concept in the, what do you call it? In the math, and I don't know, I literally have no clue what it does, but that doesn't matter because we are not here for math. We are here to teach you how to be more creative control. Do we need more? Nope. And I am going to work on top of the examples of earlier, which is... What did I exactly mention? It's two brothers fighting in a fantasy church. That one was the biggest issue. So naturally, normally, if I wanted to write something like this or make something like this, I would have, of course, a whole bunch of ideas ready and waiting in my notes that I can use to make it. But I wanted to make this quote-unquote live exercise, so we're gonna do this live. And so what is this Pascal pyramid idea type? Whelsko, I came here to get ideas so I can paint more, not to do your shitty math exercises. I fully agree on that one. I don't want to do shitty math exercise too. The numbers in this case don't necessarily matter. We can, like the numbers, you can always just make them 1, 1, 1, 1 to make it more comfortable. But I don't know, I like it because like it builds upon each other. So, oh yeah, they were fighting with swords. So, you know what we said, no drawings. So now the question is, a fantasy church. The inspiration that I mentioned, because we need focus. The focus was that there were, I don't know, I probably didn't communicate it properly, but in European churches of Christianity, you have like these colorfully decorated glass windows, often. Colorful decorated glass windows. And that was basically why I said, you know, instead of writing it down, just take a picture. If you're allowed to, because sometimes you're not allowed to. My last sip of water. Let's do this. Okay. Now we need to know. We have a fantasy church. We have two brothers fighting inside of it. And we have a colorful decorated glass windows to work with. And what we're going to do is make a fantasy story out of it. Now, this is basically, we have 3 ideas already. And we have a tale of 2 brothers. So, you know, a church is more of a, with colorful decorated glass windows, that's more of a location. And we need to know a lot more. So we got a tale of 2 brothers fighting. To be fair, I said they had to be fighting at the end, but I didn't say they had to be fight at the beginning. So we have a tale of 2 brothers. Okay. We need an emotional struggle. We need some emotional investment. So next up, emotional investment. And you can do this in all kinds of way, by the way. And we need a setting. So setting / the wider world. So we have a fantasy church with a glass. Is our story gonna take place entirely in the church? I mean, a church as the main protagonist of a story, kind of. I wouldn't say sad, but no. So we need a setting for the wider world, and that's where it gets interesting. It has to be a church. So one of these ones, it's on the side. So it's basically what the numbers represent is like the amount of ideas. So for example, this one should probably have been a 1. I mean, it doesn't really matter exactly what the numbers are. The idea is just like we have 1 idea here, we have 2 ideas in this sentence or this property, then we have 3 ideas here, and then we have 4 or 6 here. That's basically the whole idea here. Pun intended. Like when we get to 6, we should have like a sentence like this, I guess you could say, or make a sentence out of it by simply following the path we followed. So we need a setting, wider world, emotional investment. I know something. Kicked. Bro 1 kicked out of the house. Oh man. Okay, it's way too long, but bro 1 kicked. Okay, I'm just gonna say bro 1 kicked. Oh. Bro 1 kicked. I probably should have made this bigger. I'm sorry. Bro 1 kicked during youth. So what this sets up is, because if 2 brothers are exactly the same, chance of them fighting, you know, it's gonna be something out of jealousy. But in this case, we have bro 1 kicked during youth, and 2 bros kicked. No, just 2 bros. So bro 1 kicked during youth. So bro 1 means basically he's on a separate path. Has to fend for himself. And now we take inspiration. Where did this happen in the beginning? Oftentimes, what we would call a bastard. Oh, you're a bastard! In a very shitty accent. So a bastard. You know what? Maybe I should do this in another color. A bastard meant somebody, a child of a mistress of the king. In other words, no recognizable heir. So, now, and of course, we have to find all kinds of reasons and stuff. Oh yeah, so we can go a little bit to the side. So, the queen despised him. Despised bro 1. So I just want to let you know that, like, you know, like And then we go to over here. You know, these ideas are connected. So next up. So we know he got kicked out. We have two brothers. One got kicked out. So one is a bastard, but they're still like step bros, you know. So what is the wider world? In the Warhammer universe, it would be make perfect sense because they have like churches and stuff. So, I mean, I could use the Warhammer universe for inspiration. Warhammer 40k. I could use that one for inspiration, but do we want to? I mean, to be fair, you know what? Fuck it. So, I'm gonna use Warhammer 40k as inspiration. That means our setting is in the future. Ooh. You know what? But that's more of a. We want to put that here, the future. So we have to connect this or the far future. We have to connect this idea to this one. That's like the whole goal of this little exercise field thingy that you have to do. And I know I probably should have like made a template that you could fill in yourself, but like, you know, do this by hand, basically, you know, make like these arrows and stuff. So basically we need a planet, a very harsh planet, because like we need a reason that they meet in the church. You know? So we need a planet that is where food is very scarce, so maybe an industrial planet. You know, no, I know something better. Okay, this is gonna be very hard to put in one idea, but like a planet ravaged by war. No, not war. By industrial mining. It fucked up agriculture. So there's like food is very scarce. Unless you're royal, of course. So, and there's like no economic advantages and stuff. And there's very, very little green. Almost post-apocalyptic. Apocalyptic. You know, it's very like this. It's very deserty, I guess you could say. So, I don't know. So, planets with paste food. With paste, I mean like something that comes like out of a tube, like, and then like you have to basically eat like this paste. Ugh. Okay. And then of course, like, don't limit yourself to this little triangle. You know, you can keep going, but this is the whole idea. So, and then, okay, bro one, because what often happened if the he got kicked during youth, so we have to respect that. That's the focus. So basically, yeah, we have the big fight, the big confrontation. Which takes place in the church. Oh man, I probably made this too simple. So arrow there, arrow there, arrow there. I really hope you guys can read this, so it just makes a little bit more sense. So, but like, so basically, now we're gonna write about this. So we have, back during the October Revolution, I guess you could say, 20 years ago. This is, of course, inspired. I probably should have. Everything started to settle down again. Peace was returning to the lands and people were trying to salvage back what very little they had from their miserable lives. The kingdom was in ruin on top of the ruin before that. It's in the far future. Now the question is, so we know it's like it has to be a sword fight, by the way. So big confrontation has to be a sword fight. So that means if it's gonna be a sword fight, like it has certain implications. Why is it a sword fight? Why not just shoot each other in the back? The planet is very distant from all others in the, now we can call it like an Imperium or the Empire or like the Federation, but Federation starts very democratic. Imperium slash Empire is probably the best thing. And like this isn't very good writing. The planet is very distant. Like it's not very good writing, but work with me here, okay? Access to supply. No economic opportunity for trade. So yeah, that's that. And the whole idea is that Bro 1 got kicked. 2 brothers were living safely in the Emperor. Just like in Star Wars. Emperors. Or you know what? Let's go for the Romans. The consuls. In Rome, back in the history days, you had, I'll explain that later. In the consul's palace, to hide from the war. Hence the peace came. The peace came, and hence the consul's wife, the queen, wasn't too very happy with it. He was kind of a bitch. Spoiled bitch. And I realized that, like all my characters are males, and I can promise you one thing: if you're calling me quote unquote misogynistics, every single person's in this the 2 brothers, the queen and the king in this case, they're all completely flawed human beings, like with a very low moral, I wouldn't say very low moral compass, but like it's like not that it's so proud, because like it's very it's a tragedy, not a comedy. It's kind of a spoiled bitch, and she was like threatening the little brother, was threatening the Bro 1, and Bro 2 got all the affection. So basically, Bro 1 didn't necessarily have to get kicked out. See, this is what I mean. Not mad to idea. Bro 1 was scared of the queen because of, and decided to move out already at such a young age. He was a very timid and frightened boy. Because the thing is, like, especially with abusive scenarios, like, you know, a child that is being like threatened and like physically abused and stuff. They are like, they don't know what is good and what is right, you know. Like that's why it's so horrible. Why you know, that's why I want to see Bro 1 win. I probably shouldn't give them better name. But like, one of the worst things that can happen to a child is abuse, because like they don't have a sense of good or bad in the world, and like how do you navigate that? So very timid, frightened boy, yada yada yada. So he yeeted out. I mean, move out made it seem way too, but whatever. So after years of struggling to go on the streets and having to fend off for himself, Bro 1 met the most lovely lady of the land. Oh man, oh, the alliteration. Love it. She was reincarnation of Jesus himself. Getting kind of weird, but stick with it. Trying to make Bro 1 the enlightened path. Yada yada yada. He's still so okay, you know, like, so basically we have Bro 1 who is meeting a lovely young chap, a young lady. So we still need this big confrontation in the big church. So the Bro 2 would always go pray to the gods in the cathedral when nobody was around. Bro 1 was sneaking around the palace and stuff. The palace and stuff. Was trying to sneak around in the very rich district. Oh fuck, okay, this has to be always, can't change it. Gathering his riches. One night, he decided to break in with his crew into the cathedral. It didn't make sense that men of divinity would hoard all the gold and live luxurious lives while, you know, millions of poor people were in the city. Bro 2 just came from guard duty. Bro 1 discovered that, scratching my eye a little bit, somebody was still in the church. While he, you know, just, and these are just like to make things spicy, while he clearly saw that the priests went into the brothel next door. I'm just trying to like wrap it up a little bit, because like this can take for hours. All of a sudden, the bros who were separated from life from a young age locked eyes after 20 years. So that would make them, I mean, 15 is probably better. 15 years, because then they're still young, immature, yada yada yada. Young and immature usually means like they can fix stuff, like can be more emotionally immature, so they can like fight more. So all of a sudden, bros who separated from young age locked eyes after 15 years. Oh no. A big argument arose. Because, like, especially in those things, you know, you want to keep the tension up what's going to happen. And Bro 1 was out for jealousy. And Bro 2 was feeling very conflicted. He couldn't let Bro 1 escape with stealing, I guess you could say. Because he's like, Bro 2 has to prove himself as guard duty, and so Bro 1 and he couldn't just let Bro 1 escape with stealing. And you know, then the conversation is probably something along the lines of like, in that situation you have like two people of opposite worlds, and in those situations it's very easy for conflict to happen because they're not alike. The only thing that these two basically have in common again, like that fact that they were once brothers or stepbrothers and that they loved each other. And then they fight. Bullet, escape with stealing, yada yada, fight. Okay. Next up, we are gonna dissect this basically. After the 30 year war, you know, so basically we need some, you know, something to settle in and stuff. I might have to mute that. So basically we need like a reason for, because like why did he got kicked out / you know, moved out, and why didn't he do that before? You know, there was like a war going on inside, like outside. So, but the king, you know, despite being a bastard, Bro 1, like the king still loved him, you know, because it was his child. So he basically let him keep. But what would happen is, so the, you know, the war was outside, the civil war, whatever. And you know, like the queen would always be like basically bullying this innocent child that literally, you know, couldn't do anything that happened to him, because he didn't ask to be born, you know. His quote unquote father's dumb mistake did. And of course, you know, so for example, also heavily inspired by Christianity. So there's that. Kingdom was ruined top before that. So basically, this is what I mean. Like, so the reason is that you know, so we're a distant planet with very little resources, and every resource that was there was basically mine. So they basically live on top, like they live off the scraps of the scraps. You know, salvage back what very little they had from their miserable lives. Paints quite a picture, because you know, like, don't have much already, you know. No economic return. Two worlds for slaving, you know, this is basically said, this would be like in the back of the book or something. And I just want you to know, like, this isn't, you know, Pulitzer Prize or winning writing. This isn't, not. But I literally had to pull this out of my ass. Like, I had no preparation. I would never, you know, every time I do this exercise, I never know what but I end up, but I had used this earlier in the exercise. So this was like my starting motion, and yada yada. So the piece came and has a console, you know. So basically, all I'm trying to say here, and I didn't really word that kind of spoiled bitch. This was to put plainly, like, you know, she couldn't do anything wrong in the consul's eye. You know, she could do whatever she wanted. She could, you know, like treat everybody, you know, shout at the staff and like, you know, humiliate them and stuff. And no, you know, nobody would do anything because she's the consul's wife, and the consul wouldn't do anything because, you know, she's the wife. She wants him to be happy. Or maybe she's like threatening to go out with a secret that, you know, one of them is a bastard. And so, you know, the bro 2 is the real child of them two, you know, the console and the spoiled bitch. And so that is why it was like, you know, because that fucks you up as a child. If you have two parents and like one of them is like, one of them is like indifferent and the other one is bullying you, but not your, like giving all the, you know, making your life, you know, bro one's life's hell, and bro two's life's heaven. Like, I mean, you know, like how do you think that would feel? You know, I feel for bro one, if you know what I mean. You know, like every single thing he does is wrong, and like the overreactions are insane and stuff. So he becomes very jealous to bro 2 because why is bro 2 better than him? You know, they have the same father. Now, bro 1, for example, might not know that he's a bastard, so we could add that in the story. You know, make it a little spicy when he finally discovers it. Scared of the queen, decided to move out already at a young age. So basically, here this, I used move out, but that probably should be run away. Run away. Run away! Run away! I'm sorry, dude. You know, very timid, friendly. So basically, run away because, you know, he's like super scared because like the queen is like basically, you know, like the Joker or something. So, you know, it's all super crazy. Yeah, so basically, this is like a 20-year jump because, you know, no need to include every single conversation. And, you know, the young man has to live from the age of, let's say, 8 all by himself on the streets. And that's a very rough existence, especially on a planet where literally nothing is. And the first next trade ship comes in like 20 years or something. You know, next trade ship, 10 years. Reason for this, you know, something like this is like we need to have some stakes. We need to have, you know, like if every day there was a trade ship with all the supplies you need, it wouldn't be much of a story. Simple. I'll give you one of the great things: no struggle, no story. So yeah, yada yada yada. She was engaged. You know, so basically here I'm saying like there was this poor lady, I guess you could say, and she was like, you know, perfect basically, like kindness all over. And then, you know, if this would be the story, I basically would be like, you know, there would be like this push-pull mechanics of like lady trying to bring bro 1 on path of righteousness. And we can take this two ways, by the way. We can take this in the way like where she truly wants him to become a good person, you know, help out the poor and stuff like that, or like, you know, the righteousness, like, oh, we're poor and all those rich snobs, they don't deserve to live, like something like that. So there's very interesting ways we can still go about doing this story. Probably shouldn't have said Jesus himself. So, and then of course we have the big confrontation because it had to be in a church with big confrontation. And as you probably would have noticed by now, I didn't mention the colorful decorated glass. Do I need to if you know it's a cathedral? I mean, I guess I should have mentioned it, but you know, a cathedral is like it's super big, and that's like one of the things that would also pay to God and nobody's around. So basically, bro 2 is like a very deeply religious man. You know, he likes to live his concept and he likes to live by his real. How do I put it? Like, you know, he's very. He wants to follow. He wants to be the best in the gods' their eyes. I also said multiple gods just to spice it up, but a lot of this imagery would be based on Christianity. Inspiration, Christianity. The information, however, is, for example, you know, so bro 1 after a while is like, fuck this shit, I'm out. I want to do some very, you know, high level stuff. And one of the things I recently watched was Arcane, and I will not spoil it. It's a League of Legends story on Netflix. Very nice, adult animation, very extremely well done. And in the opening scene, this is what they did. Not the opening scene. So one night, decided breaking the cathedral. This is basically like, for example, in Christianity, you were allowed to marry back in the old days, and the reason for that was, nobody gave a shit. But the problem was, a bunch of popes started to use their influence as basically toward massive orgies and stuff. So around the 1200, 12 and 1300, one sore ass motherfucker came on top, and he was like, okay, from now on we live without touching the women's. So yeah, history is your best broad of inspiration if you're writing fiction, by the way, because truth is stranger than fiction. So basically, Pro 1 is clearing out everything. Pro 2 came from guard duty, so he's still like big uniform with his weapons and stuff, and so he's still like praying. And Pro 1, and he heard something, but he thought it was a priest. And then Pro 1, of course, discovers it and wants to like threaten him because he thinks like, oh, here's a cloaked man praying. So, he walks up to him and starts threatening them. And then, of course, he stands up. But because of his, like, guard duty, he knows a little bit how to fight. And he isn't afraid as, like, a very, scary old priest. So, but he thought most of them, and he saw most of them leave to a brothel next door. And I'm just saying a brothel because, like, if they were, like, perfect priests, like, just one word of advice, and, no struggle, no story. And, like, you gotta, make your world a little bit depressing, I guess. And yeah. And they were separated, from a young age because Bro 1 ran away. And they locked eyes after 15 years. Big argument arose. Because it's like, you've been living highly all these years, and Bro 1 is jealousy, so most of it that comes out of his mouth isn't necessarily the fault of Bro 2, but Bro 1 is like, I had to suffer, I had to be on the street, yada yada yada, while you were sitting comfortably in the palace, and, he's like conflicted, yeah, but you're stealing the church's gold, and they're like men, so they more likely fight each other, and doof doof doof. And, boom, they start fighting with swords. Now, do they kill each other? Do they, I don't know. We can go anywhere, anytime with this story. Simply put, we can either go in the way, like, one of them kills each other, and the other, and the other one has to live with guilt and stuff like that. But, and again, like, to be fair, it doesn't seem that interesting of a story to me. When it sounds a little bit interesting, but I don't really like the setting as much. It's too much Christianity, I guess. It's not original enough, I guess you could say. But is it a good story? I told it pretty badly, but like, you have to keep in mind, I just used this pyramid as a guide to make this, and I didn't prepare this, so I basically had quite a bit of work for me. So is it perfect? No. Would I have sent this to a screenwriter? No. Would I, if I was an accomplished science fiction writer or whatever, and they would be like, hey, can we get an idea on what your next book is? I would send something like this, definitely. I would definitely check spelling and stuff like that. So, and, that's one way. And probably we need a real world example for this. So we're gonna do another one, and that is business. So business, we are gonna do this, 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 this. Okay, business example. We need a good business. Or, because I really want to give a real world example. So a business is a good idea. And so we need what is a market. What's missing in the market? Is missing in the market. Question, Whelsko, do you know anything? Because give me your best business idea. What is hot right now? We got NFTs, we got cryptos, we got and what are the issues facing the world right now? So, same as before, let's force something. So, I have to use either cryptocurrency or NFTs. Not making this simple. It has to be clean. Or cleaner. I mean, to be fair, like, depends on how much money we have, of course. If we have to do a local business, I mean, a local business is way easier because, like, it has to be clean. I mean, like, this is like fucking easy, dude. That's what I mean. So, and the mistyping here, by the way, gave me the idea. So I don't even need to do this, but I still will try to go for an example. So what I would say is we make how do we call it? I guess a barge, or like a floating island with that mines cryptocurrency, uses waves as energy source, and cleans plastic out of the ocean. Oh my god, talk about entrepreneurial, fixing environmental issues with entrepreneurship. Whew! Oh boy. Now, naturally, like, is this a feasible business example? Yeah, but you need a lot of VC capital in order to do that. Like, this baby's easy 10 million to get started, so it's not. You know what? So we need a new idea. Let's do an age-old thingy. Food. We do food. And what kind of food are we doing? So, for example, here we have like a lot of people that don't eat much. So maybe World Kitchen. I guess HelloFresh is doing that, like Blue Apron and companies like that, where they are like, they give you a bunch of groceries and you can cook themselves. You know what? Entrepreneurial. There's something I do not see very often, and that's African food. Now, I'm as pale as the White Walkers from Game of Thrones, so I don't know much about African food, so I would partner up with somebody who's from Africa and who knows how to cook. So we do an African food, and we would mix that with... Do we go for the American, like some American barbecue? African barbecue. Does that sound? I don't know. Mix that with European cuisine. I don't know, cuisine. Fuck. Okay, I'm gonna do it like this because I'm not following my own advice. African food. Just so you know, it's Oh wow, we're over 3 hours into this. No wonder I'm a little bit drained. Doesn't matter. So, and then we have like, we're gonna take French. Oui. I hate French. Not the French, but the language. Really don't like it. So we got French food. So we got African American French. Now, this works for a couple of reasons because Unfortunately, thanks to history, a lot of Africans speak French. So we got African food, we mix that a little bit with French, with some wine and stuff. So we get basically like fancy African food. And like, now that I think about it, by the way, I just want you to know, like, let's take a look. African food. Fuck. Like, what the fuck is this? Give me images, bro. The thing with African, the problem with African food is, I mean, I'm assuming it's like the cuisine. So basically, like, you need all the recipes and like the not the recipes, like the ingredients from, a very different climate than what France is. Although I think you can make it work. Oh, it looks actually. Oh, it looks very nice. A little bit much though. And if it's a Western diet, I don't know if they eat insects. You know what? Fuck it, dude. Probably not. It's probably not. I don't know. I have, just so you know, like, I can barely make scrambled eggs. So like, don't see me as a cuisine, but like insects. Because like the French already eat like those snails that every time it rains I step on here outside. So we got because insects are a great source of protein. And we really want to make it healthy. So there we go. Now the question is, do we go high end, or do we go mid end, or do we go low end, or do we go takeaway? I mean, takeaway is technically low end, and with low end I mean price range. Like, high end means like, hundreds of euros for a simple meal. So I would personally say low end, because let's go to a city, make a lot of meals, make like franchise, like, fuck yeah, franchise it. Franchise. That means that we need to have very, very optimized processing. But like insects, for example, like, so much better and so much easier to transport and to reproduce and stuff. Like, like, not a lot of people are gonna be like, insects, are you joking me? Looks are important. Okay, so the looks are important part. This is like very important, I guess. Because what do I mean with looks is like, if Westerners see that it's an insect, oh man, they will run away out of your restaurant. It's better to basically let them eat the meal and be like, oh man, that was delicious. And then they'll tell them like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, like, those hairy spiders, put in a blender. Oh man. Like, because I'll be honest, like, I'm not used to eating insect. Like, apparently, us Westerners have like a very, very strict is not the right word, but like very idealized idea of what food is supposed to look like. Because in other countries, they're way better with like, not throwing away everything from, they eat like eyes and stuff and like insects. And us Westerners, no, we eat a cow, a pork, and a chicken, dude. Like with potatoes. And we either, cook them, deep fry them, bake them in the oven. It's only potatoes. So, basically I would like mix French, African food, quick recipes, or quick cooks, quick healthy cooks. So, because like we need low end, we need volume, like we need to get it out the door, we need to sell it, not necessarily cheap, like, to get a franchise, think about what they have happened. You know, take McDonald's model or something. McDonald's model. Yeah. I mean, and like now you would come to think about, you know, like what's the name for this? That one I don't know because like it needs to be something French and some stuff like that. Also, if in case I didn't make it clear, naming doesn't matter. Simple reason being a name. Every name you think is good now is something you already have a face to. Most names that you have to like, most names like, you know, pull them out of the hat. Like, do not think about them. Basically, like naming. Like, think about it, biggest companies, Apple, Amazon. You know, they just pick fucking a dictionary, just scroll through it, pick up the first name. So I mean, you know, to be fair, because like, you know, French cuisine is like high end and shit, so that's why I picked. But to be fair, you know, French doesn't even matter, man. French doesn't even matter, you know. If they don't, you know, if they have to do some effort, they have to surrender anyway. Oh, I hit him with the history. Hit him with the history. No, that's an inside joke you would get if you study history. No. But like, you know, so basically, like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm really gonna be honest. Like, I have no clue what African food is, so that's, you know, my, you know, my ignorance. I guess you could say. I have no idea what it is. I have been thinking about eating insects. I don't know if, you know. Let's find out. Insects. Oh, let's, you know, get some inspiration. Oh yeah, see. So I at least knew that. Insects. Oh, but like, see this. This, you know, this doesn't look too good, if I can be honest. What is this? These are Siswa, Shizwa, Shintuga, Iswa, Sisi. Ooh. I mean, this one, to be fair, like, I'm probably making a bigger deal out of this than it is, you know? So, grasshoppers, hoppers, locusts, and crickets. Man, like, you know, I think every, you know, everybody who like grew up here is probably like, yikes, you know. But you know, this one looks very nice. Maybe a little bit too much fish. Regional food, bro. These are French fries, which are made in Belgium, by the way. Okay. Oh, but see, like, this looks amazing, dude. This one I like. See, but that's the thing, like, give me this, man. Give me this. These hidden gems are one you'd better hard pressed to find anywhere else. Alright, the Washington Post. Let me see if I have to pay for what is this? So, goat's exu with the side of fufu. What the hell's fufu? Okay, you know what? There we go. Clean that up. So basically, like, you know, in the African thing, like, obviously I would partner up with, if I was to do that, so, you know, with somebody who actually has, but see, like, this looks amazing. What is this? Yassa chicken, a must order at Chez Dior, a Senegalese diner. Is that correct? Yeah, but like, bro, like, look, the way this rice is made, like, and, you know, oh, wow. No idea why you have two plates here, though. Yeah, fufu, a fluffy ball-shaped food usually made from cassava or plantain flour that has been boiled and pounded, often with mortar and pestle, served in or alongside soup, usually eaten by hand. Very interesting now. See, now I'm getting hungry, you know, like this is bad because there's where I live, there's nothing. There's nothing. I really wish they had more food, so this is what we call market research in the business. Do you think when I started this quote-unquote lecture, this class, that I was like, yep, we're gonna end up with looking at photos of African food? Eating...
Even better than I was the last time, baby.
I literally whispered the soup because I did not want them to like know that I was clearly saying it wrong. Ugh. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is what it looks like.
Okay.
Up close. I go before.
Jesus Christ, dude. Why the females, they all have these... Get some, like, fork or something. Is that like chicken? So that's fufu, I'm guessing.
Ooh, that spice.
Oh, nice. I love... I can appreciate like a little bit of spiciness.
Yams or plantains that have been... This is so good. I'm actually going to chew it. But once again, I understand why people don't chew it.
Oh man, I'm starting to get hungry, dude. Oh.
And I also love the fact that one hand stays naturally good as well.
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I hate it. I hate that so much. I hate that so much, dude. Oh man, lovely. You know, when like spare ribs and stuff, like, and then both your hands are like super, you know, messy, and then you try to go for, you know, you drink and like it's, you know, try to drink and it slips out and like, God fucking damn it, dude. Oh man, that pisses me off. This is South African, yeah, obviously. Piri piri chicken, lovely name. Jollof rice and iksui soup. Bunny chow. Okay. So, you don't want to sit here, watch me do. Hello? Hello? I'm in the darkness. Hello? No. There we go. This was my lecture on creativity and how to be an idea generating machine so you never run out of idea. Probably missed one or two things. I'm very sorry for that. There's no upsell, there's no cross to sell. No worries about that one. This is pure unadulterated Whelsko for 4.5 hours straight. Wowie. Okay. Probably should have shortened it down a bit. I didn't expect to end up here at African food, and this is why I literally love doing this one, because I always end up at a very interesting place at the end. But I hope you really learned something. If you have any questions about this, but like, if you have any questions, anything you want to add, anything you want to say, just hit me up in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you learned something. I really hope you're gonna be like me and never having to run out of idea, where you basically are gonna wonder what you're gonna do with all of these ideas. My name is Whelsko. I will hopefully see you later, and I will thank you for your very much. I appreciate it.